Hello and good evening, I'm Melisa Idris.
And I'm Sharaad Kuttan.
You're watching Consider This, the show where we want you to consider and then reconsider what you know of the news of the day. Let's begin with the latest news on COVID-19. At last look, Malaysia reported 208 new infections today. That is the second time the number of new cases have exceeded 200. But on a positive note, 122 people have recovered and were discharged today. That is the highest number of recoveries per day to date. This brings the total number of recoveries to 767, or 24% of all COVID-19 patients in Malaysia have recovered. That's 1 in every 4 patients. So while health officials are trying to bring this pandemic under control, it is the economic impact locally as well as globally that is an increasing source of anxiety. Now, the World Bank recently lowered its forecast for Malaysia's economic growth for 2020 from 4.5% to negative 0.1%. And despite the stimulus packages that have been announced, it will be hard for Malaysia to escape an economic recession in the coming months. What then is the game plan? Joining us live from WTC Kuala Lumpur to help answer that question is Datuk Seri Mustapa Mohamed, Minister in the Prime Minister's Department in charge of the economy. Good evening and welcome to the show tonight. Datuk Seri, critics are saying...
Hi, Melisa.
Datuk Seri, critics are saying that the Prihatin package is inadequate in helping businesses retain employees, particularly SMEs. Now, do you agree that this package lacks the firepower it claims to have?
Firstly, 250 billion is the biggest ever. In the subprime crisis, as you remember, it was 60 billion, and the first package was 20. Of course, we know that a few people are not happy, in particular SMEs. They would love to have more help from the government, and we've been engaging with them. I would like to share with you that the Prime Minister views this with concern, that we are getting feedback from the SME community in particular. There's been a few engagements the whole of this week. And in the next few days, the government will consider a new set of proposals. At that point of time, 27th of March, a week ago, 250 billion was huge. Perhaps after this has been announced, we've been getting a lot of feedback, and the most vocal in terms of criticism has been coming from the SME community.
Okay.
Once again, I want to assure the Malaysian public,
Datuk Seri, what has the feedback been? So you say you're engaging with the SMEs and the micro entrepreneurs. What are they asking for?
Feedback, they say there's no business, there's been lots of closures, they need working capital, which is not part of the facility that was announced. The wage subsidy of 600 ringgit over 3 months is not sufficient. In general, they don't have money to pay salaries. They have got commitments in respect of rental payments, utility charges. So they're asking for more money from wage subsidies, but more importantly, I think they want to tide over this very difficult position, and they want the government to consider some more help. So this has been actively considered by the government.
Datuk Seri, much of that 250 million ringgit package ringgit package is deferments and such. Could you help us understand the part of it that has to do with supporting SMEs? It doesn't amount to very much in terms of the job retention objectives of that particular part of the proposal. Do you think there needs to be more balance? Is job retention more important than perhaps securing a social safety net at this point in time?
Well, the people is important. The B40 in particular, those who have lost their jobs, those who are involved in small businesses, those in the informal sector, this represents a large chunk of the Malaysian population, those earning 4,000 and below. That's a priority to the government. Next will be small and medium enterprises. In terms of help given by the government, the wage subsidy is one. The the waiver of the interest and principal payments, which they do not have to pay for the next 6 months, will of course relieve them of some cash flow pressures that they're having. And we got what we call the SRF facility of about 6 billion. And there's a facility for other sectors, 6.8 billion. So what's for SMEs in particular, first in the form of wage subsidy, the other is funding facilities. But as I said, we acknowledge after having had this intensive interaction with them that we need to revisit some of these proposals, and as I said earlier, this is being actively considered by the government.
Would it be possible, is it likely that you might see a doubling of that wage subsidy, something that's been spoken about by various critics as well as the SME representatives?
That would be certainly useful for them, but of course it's got to be carefully considered by the government. We have to look at the government's financial situation. Of course, it is important to preserve jobs. There's probably some scope for reconsidering this 600 ringgit amount, but at this point of time, I'm in no position to give you a definite answer because this is still under consideration. But once again, in the next few days, there will be a decision made by the government on this very important subject.
And on that note, Datuk Seri, I mean, to some observers, they may think that that's not soon enough, that there seems to be a lack of urgency because you said there's a special cabinet meeting. So there was a special cabinet meeting scheduled for tomorrow. There's a second meeting set to take place on Sunday, and then all of that is going to be reported to the Prime Minister in the Economic Action Council meeting on Monday. Is this urgent enough? Is this help coming soon enough?
Well, today is Thursday, tomorrow is Friday, as you know, and Monday is not too far away. We have to give thorough consideration. We have seen most of them in the last few days. We had a meeting yesterday, and the Ministry of Finance is refining some of those proposals, and hopefully by Monday we'll get there. That's not too far away. I'm sure SMEs in Malaysia can wait 3-4 days.
So we'll have to wait with bated breath to find out.
It's not an issue at all.
Okay, we'll find out more on Monday. Okay, we're going to take a quick break and we're going to come back and continue this conversation right here on Consider This, so don't go anywhere.
Assalamualaikum semua. Kepada warga Terengganu, rakyat Terengganu yang mungkin duduk di Terengganu ataupun duduk di luar negeri Terengganu, jadi hamba nak minta kerjasama belaka supaya kita duduk di rumah. Jangan tubik, jangan keluar, jangan bawa anak-anak tu tubik jalan ke apa ke. Ini adalah waktu yang sangat kritikal, orang kata. Kritikal. Oh, payah nak sebut tau. Jadi duduk di rumah, buatlah benda-benda yang bermanfaat. Nak tengok TV ke, macam hamba petang ni nak buat benda ni, nak nyabik rupuk. Allah, tinggi belaka dah rupuk. Jadi inilah masanya hamba nak gunakan untuk nyabik rupuk. Selesai pun. Nampak? Clear dah sekarang. Okey lah, dok kata lah, sebab kita pakai gunting tau. Kita pakai gunting.
Thanks for staying with Sharaad and I on Consider This. Now, it may be too soon to predict the long-running arc of this COVID-19 pandemic, but it's not too soon to recognise that the next global recession could be just around the corner. How will Malaysia weather the storm? Let's continue our conversation now with Datuk Seri Mustapa Mohamed, Minister in the Prime Minister's Department in charge of the economy. So, Datuk Seri, on Monday, you said that the economy will need at least 6 months to recover. Now, I'm looking at other projections. Economists are not that optimistic. In fact, they're predicting a global recession going into 2021. Now, what makes you optimistic that our economy will bounce back so quickly?
Firstly, the situation is very fluid. 27th of February, at that point of time, we never thought that the pandemic would be this serious. And 27th of March, we came up with this package, and now we are revisiting some of the proposals announced on the 27th of March. Last night, in another occasion, I said that by year end, hopefully we'll be in a position to begin gradually towards the road to recovery. And now, there's going to be a recession. The IMF MD, Managing Director, has already said that the world is going to go a very challenging period. And Malaysia is very much part of the global economy. We're part of the global value chain, many of our companies. And to say that we're going to recover in 6 months, of course, is not right. What we mean is that it's going to take us 6 months before we get things sorted out, and it'll be gradual. I mean, it's going to be a U-shaped kind of process in the next few months, and probably by the beginning of this year, beginning of next year, we'll begin to see some signs of recovery. And even then, it's not going to be immediate. It's going to take a few months. So that's the current position that I have. Yeah? It's going to take a few more months before this pandemic will have its full impact on the Malaysian economy, and it's going to take. I mean, if you close a shop, you're not going to be able to open immediately. If you close a construction site, you've got to mobilize the machinery. If you close a factory, once you switch on the machines, it will take some time. So for an economy of the size of Malaysia, of course, we're going to take some time.
Datuk Seri, some of your critics, again, outside of government, perhaps easier to make these criticisms, but we had the economist Jomo Kwame Sundaram on our show a couple of days ago. He says that the Prihatin package could have been bolder. In fact, he suggested that perhaps government is looking over its shoulder, that this government is not confident. Do you take that criticism? Is this government looking over its shoulder, not pushing hard enough, or making bolder choices?
We unfortunately have a cushion. We have a small current account surplus in the budget. We have a good current account surplus in the balance of payments. I wish we have a bigger cushion. So the lesson for us is a big cushion. Therefore, when we have an emergency situation like this, we can have a really radical approach to solving problems. We've gone a long way, 250 billion ringgit. About 17% of GDP, relative GDP is a big size. Of course, we need, our deficit is going to go up, of course. It was 3.4% last year. This year was supposed to be 3.2%, and everyone knows it's going to be much higher than 3.2%. So the issue is how much it can go up to. This is a delicate balancing act. Yes, we can be bold, we can be radical. In my view, we've been bold and we've been radical. We need to, be mindful of what might come up in the next few weeks. I mean, as I said in the beginning, it's a very fluid situation, very dynamic situation. So, if things get a lot worse, of course, we need to have a few more bullets.
Yeah. Well, so speaking about that ammunition, what's in that arsenal? You spoke about the deficit. You're looking at the balance of payments and all that. Datuk Seri, is this really a time for fiscal discipline?
We in 2009, we had a deficit of 6.4%. And since then, we have embarked on a program of fiscal consolidation. We've been successful. Now, of course, it's not a relevant issue. All of us in government is agreed on this fact that one shouldn't be too worried about the 3.4, 3.5 or 4% deficit. It is important for us to move on. This is the approach taken by the government of Malaysia. The issue of whether we are bold enough, that's purely a subjective matter. In our view, we've been very bold, very unconventional, very radical, the biggest ever package. And of course, as I say, going forward, the world out there is still uncertain. And we need to have a few more things in the arsenal, of course, as you rightly pointed out.
Okay, so should we be then considering other unorthodox policy measures in this time of crisis? We've had economists pointing out that this is not a textbook recession, so perhaps we should be considering other non-conventional measures.
Well, firstly, the deficit will definitely go up. We're going to get some help from government-linked companies. Certainly, there will be some increase in borrowing. Our debt level was about 53% before this to GDP, direct what we call central government debt, and this figure could be breached. And this is unconventional. 55% was the self-imposed limit that we had all these years, and it could be beyond that with putting everything into account. So it is quite conventional. We've gone a long way, and of course, we'll continue to monitor developments.
Datuk Seri, you know, part of that $250 billion package includes people's dipping into their own savings, right, through EPF. Now, some people say that that's not fair. How do you address this idea that people are sacrificing their future safety net for the current problem, that perhaps government should be the ones actually putting up, not them?
Well, you have said earlier that you need to be unconventional in your approach. So that's been unconventional. People, in the feedback that we've got from the people of Malaysia, many of them have been suggesting that the government should allow not only for them to withdraw their own savings, but as a matter of fact, many of them proposing that employers should consider not contributing at all to the employers in particular. They want the government to consider a waiver or a reprieve so that they don't have to pay if you have contribution in the next few months. Yes, you're right, that's people's money, but this is very unusual circumstances, and we've been getting this feedback from many people of Malaysia that they would like to, in these difficult times, they want to dig up into their savings, and we hope at some point of time in the future they'll be able to rebuild the savings. So this is unconventional, which is what you wanted, and we've done it. The thing is, we have the government, we have the people of Malaysia, we have the banking system, we have GLCs coming forward, so we have everything, everyone chipping in, and that's why we are able to have a big package.
All right, we're going to take a quick break and continue our conversation with Datuk Seri Mustapa Mohamed shortly on Consider This. Don't go anywhere, stay tuned.
Assalamualaikum semua, kami Dayang, kami just nak pesan dan kita orang semua harap-harap time tu dalam situasi tu kita ikut arahan kerajaan untuk stay di rumah, jangan keluar, nak keluar pun atas urusan penting ataupun siapa dielakkan lagi. So, stay home, stay healthy, semua tu sebentar je. Muah.
Assalamualaikum abang-abang, adik-kakak di Sarawak. Kami Awang Nazim dari Astro AWANI ingin mengingatkan kita semua untuk patuh kepada perintah kawalan pergerakan yang telah diumumkan Perdana Menteri. Malah Ketua Menteri kita Abang Johari pun madah jangan keluar rumah mungkin perlu.
Welcome back to Consider This with me, Melisa, Idris and Sharaad Kuttan. We're speaking to Datuk Seri Mustapa Mohamed, Minister in the Prime Minister's Department in charge of the economy. Now, Datuk Seri, the Prihatin package was passed with much fanfare, but there are many who are calling for Parliament to allow this package to be scrutinised sooner rather than later. Do you agree that perhaps the package should be discussed in Parliament now instead of waiting till May 18th?
Well, that's a view, but we have done many things in the past without going to Parliament. But of course, eventually we have to go to Parliament. That's a requirement, that's the law. Anything that goes beyond the budget needs parliamentary approval. We have what we call the supplementary budget. For example, in the year 2014, we had to spend a few billion ringgit to deal with the very serious flooding situation in a few states, including my home state of Kuttan. And of course, we went to Parliament the following year, 2015. During the subprime crisis, for example, similar thing happened. And SARS 2003, we went to Parliament for an additional budget. So this is nothing unusual. Yeah? This is not nothing. I mean, this is very unusual times, and the law allows the government to come up with some additional spending. But at some point in time, of course, it will be debated in Parliament.
Datuk Seri, the Prime Minister, when announcing the package, acknowledged that this was not the government that people, or some people at least, had voted for. And there is an issue about whether this is the best government to take charge of the economy and, in fact, social life at this point in time. People looked askance at the fact that we have one health minister, two deputy health ministers, and yet the government said needed to appoint an advisor on public health. Is this government operating at maximum efficiency?
Well, firstly, let me divert a bit. We have a good economic team. We have a Prime Minister who has got many years of experience in government, more than 40 years. We have a good economic team. Senior Minister Datuk Seri Tunku Zafrul and myself, we work very closely with each other. Health is a very important issue, and perhaps the Prime Minister needs more help. I mean, we have a Minister and two Deputy Ministers, but it is such a very important issue, and Tan Sri Dr. Jamila has brought in a lot of fresh perspective into the way we manage things, and I've interacted with her, not only now, but in the past. I find her to be very constructive, and she's got lots of good ideas, and she's an asset to the government of Malaysia.
Datuk Seri, I'd like to take a look at economic life after the MCO and during a time of a pandemic. You know, it will change the way we live. We will definitely be implementing or observing physical and social distancing, and I'm sure that will change the nature of our economy and the way we produce and consume. Can you weigh in on how you think the landscape of the Malaysian economy will change post-MCO during a time of COVID?
Yes, indeed. This is an opportunity for us to revisit some policies on industry, how we promote investments, how we address the issue of low wages, how we address the issue of poverty. I mean, as you know, there's been quite some criticism about the way how we measure poverty. So this is an opportunity for us to upskill our workers, to look at our curriculum. A wonderful opportunity. And in the next few days, next week, my secretariat, my team, together with MOF and EPU, will be sitting with our colleagues in the universities, those representing business organizations, civil society, will start thinking about post-COVID. Yeah? And we need the best minds to work on this. And I want to assure the Malaysian public that it is important for us to rebuild confidence post-COVID. Post-COVID will, the situation we're in now will enable us to have a fresh look at some of our policies, and I think we would be in a better position to implement policies that will put Malaysia on an even stronger basis to move forward, especially to achieve our goal to be a developed nation in the context of the shared prosperity vision, which is going to be launched, already launched in October, but will start in the 12th Malaysia Plan until the year 2030. So this is an opportunity for us to do lots of fundamental changes to address some of the challenges we are currently facing in the Malaysian economy.
That's right. Do you think there might be
Including,
parts of the economy that might in fact suffer irreparable damage? Think of the tourism industry, because it's so much dependent on confidence, on people, and in fact, what knowledge we have of the particular pandemic, I mean, of the virus itself. Do you think there be parts of the economy that will not recover from this crisis?
Tourism is important. It employs lots of people and is one of the most badly affected sectors. The lesson we learn from the current episode is that we cannot be too dependent on some countries when it comes to tourism, when it comes to trade, for example. We need to diversify, we need to deepen the structure of the Malaysian economy. Yes, some businesses might have to be fundamentally changed. There's got to be more online businesses. We need to promote the digital economy, e-commerce, yeah? And these are kind of things. This is an opportunity. Yeah, we don't know at this point in time which businesses will leave the scene. But certainly there will be a fundamental shift in the Malaysian economy. We have to move up the value chain. We have to work harder in order to enhance productivity and improve the school and university curriculum so that we become a high-income economy. Many Malaysians, as you know, earn relatively low wages, although we aspire to be a developed nation. The fact is our incomes are low. If our aspiration is to be a developed nation by the year 2020, we have to do a lot of things in order to improve the way we promote investments, the way we promote industries. And in tourism, for example, we need to target more longer haul tourists coming to this country, tourists who spend more money. The tourist expenditure per person has got to go up. So these are the kind of things that we need to look at, and this is a wonderful opportunity.
We have maybe a couple of minutes left.
Yes.
These are the mantras of politicians over the last decade of improving education, of the IR 4.0. Everybody talks about this. That these are just platitudes in many ways, right? This crisis has exposed some of the deepest structural problems within our economy and the vulnerability of so many of our citizens. Will we learn the lessons from this crisis so that we won't be just hearing the same platitudes in the future, that something actually will change?
Yes, we learned a lot from the 97-98 crisis. We implemented a number of reforms. Unfortunately, they did not go far enough. This time around, this is an opportunity. We've learned a lot of lessons. Our health system, our education system, our agriculture has got to be modernized. And we are going to begin our 2021 with the 12th Malaysia Plan. And I am one of the persons involved in government which will drive this new agenda and in the 12th Malaysia Plan. And we need to put a number of new policies in place. We have learned lots of lessons during this pandemic, and we are sure that we'll be able to build a better tomorrow for everyone. We need to rebuild confidence and trust from the people, from the international community, and it is on this basis that we move forward. We have to work together. We have to pool the best brains from government, from industry, from the academic community, from civil society. Inshallah, we will get this done in the next few weeks in charting a better future for our beloved country.
All right, that's all the time we have tonight. Thank you so much for speaking with us tonight, Datuk Seri.
Unfortunately, okay, Melisa, okay, Sharaad, thank you so much.
Thank you.
See you soon.
See you soon, at a distance, I'm sure. That's all the time we have for this episode of Consider This. I'm Melisa Idris, with me, Sharaad, Kuttan, signing off for tonight. Thank you so much for watching, and good night.